Hey, y'all, back with another one. Back with another one. This is we're gonna talk about some like ancient China. I talked about this before, and it's pretty much like I did before on pre-record, and I think I did it on live stream. I'm not sure, but you know how it goes, and I'm just gonna put it on here for a minute. So let me adjust something real quick. Yeah, I'm gonna put that on it so I can talk better, and y'all can hear me. I had to put the filter on, but that's the windscreen. Enough of that. Enough of that. See what's going on, and let's talk about pre-China, ancient China. That's what it was called, but this modern era. It's the Yang Shao culture or something like that, right? So basically, I'm gonna read this off to you. It says in China's first evidence of advanced farming surplus food production appears related to the Yang Shao culture, which was focused on the basins formed by the confluence of the Yellow River, the Hang Mao or the Finhao, and the Kuishi rivers. But this Yang Shao culture, which is related to the Z dynasty, is characterized by the handsome painting and pottery. This culture also includes cultivated maize, rice, kalyang, kalyang or something like that, and possibly soybeans, as well as domesticated pig, cattle, and sheep and dog, chicken, and possibly the horse and silkworm. There were also ceremonial pottery vessels and elaborated work of objects in jade, flint, bone, and stone. But this culture dates to about 3,500 BCE. But no, there are several pyramids in China, some quite large. However, because of the political situation, Western archaeologists have not been able to investigate them. Whatever information Chinese archaeologists have uncovered has not have been made available. There you go in the blue parentheses. So it's no need to talk about the politics in China as much. We're going to skim through all that and we're going to get into the pottery. Um, let's see real quick. I'm going to share the screen with y'all. And that's the beginning title of it. We're going to talk about this part two is to China. We'll get to that next week. We're just going to focus on part one. It's not going to be a long one. Because I got so much time constraints. The Yang Shao culture is followed by the Longshan, after which is comes to the Yin or Shang, which dates to about 1,500 BCE and is by far the better known. China, late Neolithic period, 2,000 BCE. Okay. And that's the little pottery they got. And then you got the Yang Shao potteries, Yang Shao painted pottery. And then you got the Yang Buffalo, um, 1800 BCE. That's the note. So I'm going to give y'all the full screen. Hold on for a minute. Yeah, and so y'all can. I'm going to dip myself out of it in a minute. Okay, but a note as we have already made clear that the dates should not have been taken literally, but at the point of the comparison, the Yang Shao culture is dated conventionally at 3,500 BCE, but yet just across by far just across the bay in Japan, they said in Japan, but the same type people, ancient John, ancient Jamin, who migrated from China to Japan. See, if you want to talk about the history of Japan, you got to go back to China, where they all stem from. And that's why you got the Japanese and all this other stuff. But Japanese is a mixed culture, so we're not going to get into that. I wish they would have Japan, but it correlates what China is. Because if you got China, it talks a little bit about Japan. Are known to inhabit the area since about 35,000 BCE, but um 35,000 BCE. So be careful what conclusions you draw from dates. Exactly. That's why he's saying be careful. You got because there's more research out there. What he's trying to say is like, yeah, because you got to know this is a time period of different peoples back then. So this is the culture of the pre-China, whatever, before there was a Japan. See? The Shang, 1200 BCE, and the dates The reign of Wing Ding, 1100 BCE. That's a long time ago. This is probably the ancient times in China in 1200 BCE because I told you everybody was in Asia at the time. The Shang, 1200 BCE. Yes, a long time ago. The ancient world. That's what it was. Most people. For many years, the Z dynasty was thought to be a mythical time that the Chinese tell about as a part of their oral history. But though the Z dynasty existed in oral histories, there was an archaeological evidence found, and it was found until 1959. But this excavations at the ethereal in the city of Yanqi, but they uncovered was the most likely capital of the Z dynasty. This site showed these people were direct ancestors of the Lingshan, Longshan culture. But the radiocarbon dates from this site indicated that it existed from 2100 to 1800 BCE. Despite this new archaeological evidence of the Z, and they're still not universally accepted as a true dynasty. And part of that reason is sometimes dynasties they depend on culture, and what he meant right there is basically it's going to explain later. He's basically saying cultures like that only exists if it has a little relevance into it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of cultures that, like I said, the Indus Valley, that's a whole nother piece on that. So you have to look at the big picture, and that's just part of the game, that you got to look at, and that's what you have to see what's what. And then
if you wanted to.
yeah. Um I don't know if that got in the video. My fault. Yeah. Okay. Apologize for that. I was into something. I had to check my phone and all that stuff. Apologize for that. Jane Shang figure 1200 BCE. The Shang Jade in the China Western Zhao period, the 10th century BCE. That's what it is at the time. The Shang, rather than the Z, are still considered by most to be the first true dynasty of China. That's what they say of China. Like the Z Shang were originally considered to be a myth. They say, right, and they were discovered because Chinese yes, they because of Chinese pharmacists were unknowingly selling oracle bones to the Shang has created. But the pharmacists were he said the farmers were really selling the bones as a dragon bones. These bones were first noticed in 1899. By 1920s, they were traded back to the Anyang province, where the last Shang capital was. The last Shang capital was and founded and that evacuated, and the evacuations were halted in 1937 when Japan attacked China in the 1950s. An early Even in the early Shang capital was founded near the present day by Xingxingzhu. Traditional Chinese history indicates that the Shang dynasty considered of the 30 kings and 7 different capitals. There's probably some truth there. This guy, shouts out to realhistory.com, breaking it down to you. And then the Shang chariot horse and the burials. And I think I talked about this before, the burials. And it says the horse burials are founded from the Greeks to China, but they were relatively rare, except China, and the bones are often very poorly preserved. And the earliest chariots and chariot burials in China dated to the Shang dynasty at around 1250 BCE. The Lindorf 2003, they're using the Shang period mainly seems restricted to royalty, but during the succeeding periods of the burial of chariots, horses became much more widespread. But most Shang chariots were driven by the two horses. But the chariots pulled by four horses did not become the widespread until the spring and autumn period. But in some situations, the horses were buried into the pits with the chariots either side by side or in front of the other. But some pits contain only horses, the others only chariots, and sometimes the horses were buried in the main tomb while the chariots were in separate pits. But while at the time in reverse was the case of Lu in 1993, a Shang period 1100 century BCE, horses the chariot pit by 552 from Gaoyu Zhangzhong or something like that. It says Gaoyu or Gaoyu Zhaizhong or Anyang Hanan. That's what they said right here, right? But the men and the horses had been killed and lain to the pit of before the chariot was lowered into the Zhangzugu, Shishu, and Xi Yangyu and Kaiyu and Yangzhu, all this right here, right? And Cass in 1988 or Bagley 1999. But the Western Zhao period, horses pit, Tamyun, Akun, Humnun, and Shanks. But the horse was apparently buried alive, with their feet tied together. So this is the Shang chariot horse burials. I think I talked about this a little bit. And then you got the chariot decorations in the Western Zhao 1100 BC. That's what it looks like in the chariot in 11 BC. Okay. So I'm going to give it a stop for a minute and interject myself in here for a minute. But this is the type of stuff that you see a lot on the stuff in the history. I'm gonna see how much further. We ain't gonna go too far because today is like time constraints. Part two will be I'll be impressive the next morning of the recording. And then we're gonna talk about, oh yeah, we're going further today. We're gonna skip um the scientific facts part. That's debates. The Peking man, Peking. We'll talk about that a little bit, and we'll skim past the racial stuff, and then we'll skim through it. I'll skim through it because it's gonna be short, and we'll talk about the Peking man just a little bit, just brief, and then we're gonna end it right there. But we are gonna talk about the evidence of the story. Let's see how much time we got. I'm not gonna take too much of your time. It's 13 minutes in. Okay, so this period, I talked about this before years ago on certain occasions and certain videos you can find whatever in China and live streams. I talked about it as well in the dark history streams and about the cultures, and that it talks a little bit about Japan. It's always going to be in China because that's where they come from, and then they migrated. Some of them have a little ancestry. Everybody knows they're Asian, but it's a whole nother story on that. I wish Japan had their own history because you got different types of Japanese, and some of them came from China, some came from other places. It's like a mixed culture. That's what we're talking about in Japan. It's a mixed culture. So you're basically having the same problems that you see today in relatively what's going on today. So you have this culture, China coming in, just making sure everything is going to be substantial or whatever, or whatnot. So let's go back to it. Um, let's go here for a minute. Let me step out for a minute of the screen and y'all know what time it is. Okay. Unfortunately, there are no lifelike statues of the Z of the Z in China. Just they he says Z in China, just these jade and bronze works. They said just these jades and bronze works. They have been made available anyway. However, there are a lot of them in Americas, and that's exactly where we are going. That's what they say in Americas. There's a whole nother story on that. You see that little symbol that we see is a historic symbol, by the way, even though it's not positive, but it's a symbol of culture. You see it in all cultures. You see it in scripture. That's the mark of the so-called beast, but that's a whole nother story. I can talk about what that means on a vlog stream and And if you read the scriptures hardly, you'll study everything. But they showing you this is a cultural thing, so you know how it is. Close up the front piece of the Chinese Diamond Sutra, the oldest known to dated brass a wood block book in the world, dated May 11th, 868, probably BCE or CE, which one is it? But the diamond, and he said that the diamond is a macula or Buddhist or sutra from the, yeah, because there's a lot of Buddhists in Asian culture, by the way. The Buddhism or Buddhist culture, it's been around a long time. I talked about this before too. Yeah, perfection and wisdom, and then genre emphasizes practice of a long abiding from non-attachment to the Diamond Sutra is the key about devotation and the study in the Zen Buddhism. Noted that Buddha has the hair of the black man, has a swastika on his chest. Well, that swastika historically is known from the land of Nod in the scriptures. That's the mark that you saw. The land of Nergal is an East Indian symbol. The East Indians had it. All these cultures had it, Asian culture, but this is called, like, in their culture, they call it the sutra, right? But I don't want to sound scripture talk. We would call that idol worship. The people that believes in Yah's faith or Israel faith that we co-sign over here. But me, we're just looking at a historical reference, what this information provides. I ain't gonna put my beliefs in it in this one because I feel like this is a historic symbols that have been around forever, but it's a cultural thing. Most people like it, and the majority will don't like because Hitler done tainted it so much. Even though I'm not defending this, it's nothing positive about it either. They're all idols and stuff that I don't worship. No, but it's been around a long time. It has significant of scriptural fact that Nod had this type of symbol. It's been around before us men knew. A lot of people think it's a sword. Yeah, there's some truth to that. There's a sword on the bottom tip. Looks like that, but that's a whole nother story on that. Shouts out to Ruin for saying that. He said it was a sword. I had to research that. And then you see all the paintings, the jade and the Chinese symbols. You see all that, the ancient stuff like that. So we keep it a traditional. They were darker skinned people. And then you have the noted that Chinese mummies demonstrate that the ancient Chinese were multi-ethnic. They said they were multi-ethnic and multiracial, or multicultural, you'll say multiracial. And this albino Mongol, should I say, they call them albino Mongol or Mongol, like, yeah, mulatto Mongol. Okay, the call of Lady Da. She's considered to be the best preserved mummy ever discovered. Her skin is soft, her arms, legs, and can bend. Her internal organs are intact. She still has her own type A. Yeah, type A in her hair, eyelashes. The Lady of Da, also known as the Xingzhu, lived during the Han Dynasty. The Han Dynasty in 206 BCE to 200 CE, or they'll say AD, but we say CE over here, and was the wife of the wife of the Marquis of Da, or Day or Da. Her tomb was discovered inside a hill known as the Gandu in Changsha, Hunan, China, in 1971. When the workers were digging an air raid shelter, they found her in the shelter. You see, this person lived in the ancient world, mummified, right? Got that from the Egyptians, huh? And it's evident. Mulatto, the mixed breeded um, Chinese person. 2011 or 2011, 700-year-old mummy was discovered by a chance in excellent condition, Eastern China, but the corpse was a high-ranking woman believed to be from the Ming Dynasty, discovered but the matrices of below to the road surface, and a woman's features from the head and from her shoes, and retained their original condition. And hardly decorated to the mummy was wearing the traditional Ming Dynasty costume. But in the coffin were bones, cremix, ancient writings, and other relics. That's what it says, right? They said a black Caucasian. I know where he's going with that. I know what he's doing. The darker skin car, or it means. I think some people say black means pale. I kind of co-sign that. I'll expand on that in the future when white people say that. And, I've been listening to this stuff for like probably 12 years ago when I heard the Moors. They talked about it years ago, but that 2012 period, that 12 years ago period, that's a long time ago. That's when I first heard them really explain it to people. Black Dravidian woman, circa 1800 BCE, called the beauty of Lawan of the Xingan Little River. Tomb complex refers to the Bronze Age burial site located near the Lanjing, Western China, but is also said dune in which more than 30 well-preserved mummies. Yeah, I ain't gonna read all that. I'm just gonna that's what it says, but it's a lot. I ain't gonna read a lot of it because I'm on time constraints. But and then I think it says something like 700 BCE. I mean 77 BCE. Then talking about the 1990s research and okay, this is the beauty of that person or Dravidian woman, like what they say, darker Caucasians. Okay, I know what they meant by that. So it's pretty much scientific facts. Let's go to the Peking Man. I talked about this before, and that's the statue of the Peking Man. 1923 to 27, during the evacuation of the Zhoukangdong in China, near in Beijing, formerly Peking, bones were found from a 750,000-year-old humanoid dubbed Peking Man. Many people, including some Chinese, claim that the Chinese people descended from the Peking Man, who in fact was actually a Homo erectus. So another story on that. Talk about the humans. And y'all can check this site out, y'all. It's called realhistory.com. Go to the pages with the sapiens, about the human beings. You got to scroll down to the sapiens, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon, Erectus, and Habilis. I think I mentioned this when we was going against SKC, but it's got two parts. I'm not going to talk about it here because I know YouTube is sensitive, but you can check it out yourself. And yeah, it has a little graphical stuff. You know how sensitive this site is, but I can mention on other platforms. But yeah, I'm not going to debate science on YouTube because people are so dumb on here. But it's different species and things like that. I could talk about it, but I'm not going to risk my channel for it because you know how sensitive these morons are on YouTube. It's a lot of hatred around here, so you know how people are silly. They don't like answering real stuff. So the Peking Man, and that's what it's going with. But shouts out to this person right here. That's what we're gonna go for, the Peking Man, and that's what they said. That's just the viewpoint. They said some of the forensic of the Erectus, the Peking Man. That's what he looks like, and then the statue to the bus, and you know how that goes. But yeah, this is the culture. I'm gonna skip through the racial stuff, scientific, and you've seen this before on this website. He talks about the genotypes, the blood types, and all that. The people is modern. So it's pretty much part one. Part one, what I think about it is, don't take this for granted. This is about ancient China. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And then part two, we're going to talk about Genghis Khan. That's going to be a long one. I ain't got time to just go expound on it, but you enjoy. But this is going to be a series I'm going to do this week, this part one, then the next series next week of the same one. Then we're going to end it next week as well. So you know how it goes. And the 26th, make sure you're doing a live show. I'm talking about something totally different, and we're going to talk about different things. But this is just a small piece of China. It's a little history on it. We're going to continue more. So with that, until next time, shalom to the people of Israel and the Gentiles as always. Shalom. Until next time, I'm signing off and I'm out.